I'm actually going to share with you today a story that I have never talked about publicly before. And of course, all of the details on this are going to be super changed and super edited. So you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to figure out when or where or who this situation happened with. It was before I opened my business, though. So that's the only win that you will have. So before I opened my business, I had a series of jobs that were more corporate facing jobs. And I had a few experiences that were just less than stellar. At the time, myself, I was not in a leadership role, right? I was not in a leadership role. And so I was on a team. I was the doer. I was trying to be creative and find innovative ways of doing new things or implementing new programs and strategies. But I was just the doer on the ground and then kind of pitching those things up to the people that were above. And unfortunately, as probably most of us could say, we have probably all experienced really bad leaders, really horrible, ugly. I don't think I can cuss on lives. Just really poopy leaders. And that can be one of the hardest things to navigate. In fact, I learned when I became a leader and moved, promoted into a leadership role, probably like 15 years ago or so. I learned that the number one reason that people leave their jobs is because of their manager. It is not the workload. It is not the job itself. It is not what's being asked of them. It's not the hours. It's not the pay. It's not the pay. You would think it would be. It is not the pay. It is the leader. It's the manager because they're so bad and they're so crappy at what they're doing. And I have more stories than I would care to admit about situations that were really crappy leadership, and you probably do too. Especially if you are a leader and you've moved into these roles and you can reflect back and see like what you're like, how did they do that? Like that was not even remotely okay now that you're in that position, right? And so one of the stories that I will never, ever, ever forget. So if you don't know me, I am super casual. I put on this cute little shirt, but like I am definitely, I live near the beach. I roll out of bed. I put my hair up with a pin. I am a casual human. I will always be a casual human. Maybe two or three times a year, I would love to get dressed up and put on something fancy and wear high heels and do my makeup and my hair. But outside of that, like if I look like a troll, and that's okay. I own that. That's my brand. Like professional troll. I don't know if I can put that in my job title, but I am just a casual person. And I've been judged for this my entire life. It still happens. This still happens. This is not new. But I was in a mid-level leadership role. So I was managing people, but I was not hard to describe, but I was like a mid-manager role. The top dogs were two layers above me, right? But I still had leadership responsibilities. And I remember showing up to a meeting and I got judged for my shoes. I got judged for my shoes, which I think is something that we actually experience a lot as women as well. Sorry, guys, you probably haven't been judged for your shoes the way that women in leadership roles have. It's just a discrepancy there. Um, but oh, hold on just a second. I clicked on a button and there was an echo. Sorry about that. And so I got judged for my shoes. I wear Chacos. This is not, I don't have a brand partnership with Chaco, although Chaco, if you ever see this, my arm got stuck. Please, hello, yes, let's do it. Um, that Chaco's amazing. And so I wear these sandals a lot. And I had on a professional outfit, but I did have on the Chacos. And maybe it wasn't the most appropriate thing to wear. Maybe I did need to be a little bit more sensitive to the room and not wear the Chacos. Maybe so. I'll own that. But what ended up happening is one of the leaders started bad-mouthing me to other people in the room, including people on my team. Including people on my team. I have never shared this story before. Um, and there was just kind of like a mean girl vibe in that leadership situation at the time. And what's funny is I think that anytime someone is doing something like that, where they're bad mouthing another person, whether professionally or personally, I don't think they ever genuinely expect it to make it back to the person, but sometimes it does. And in my case, it did. And here's what's so beautiful. Ugly leadership has happened before. It's happening now. It will continue to happen because not everyone invests in their growth. That's just the reality of the situation. You're going to get arrogant people. You're going to get mean girls and mean guys. You're going to get people that are not self aware. All the situations are going to happen in leadership, and you may have to deal with some really crappy leaders. But here's what I chose to do. When that story came back to me, when that found its way back to me, I thought, what a beautiful compliment. What a beautiful compliment that I disrupted your norm for half a freaking second, that you decided that you were so disrupted by a pair of shoes that you decided to talk to other people about it. And how beautiful that there was nothing about me as a human or a leader or a manager or an innovator or a creative or a problem solver or a strategist that you could critique. That it just had to go down to my shoes, my clothing choice, my wardrobe choice. What? Amazing. And how beautiful that I got to be on so many people's radar for something so simple. I took it as a compliment. I really genuinely felt like I disrupted the room enough that people were snapped out of reality for just a second, where maybe we got to pause. In fact, maybe even that leader's true colors were shown to people that didn't know them before. Maybe people got to see me owning my truth. And in fact, that did happen. Nearly a year later, someone completely different who had witnessed the situation and overheard the conversation from essentially who was their boss's boss, listening to their boss's boss say this, she said, I respected you in a different way after that because I saw that you show up in rooms as yourself and you walk the walk, you own your truth, you are so confident in who you are that you navigated that situation with such grace that you didn't care about the shoes. And I kept wearing them. In fact, after that, it was a sticking point that I was always going to be wearing them, right? And so it was funny because then it became a joke when I wasn't wearing them. People, oh my God, I didn't know you could wear shoes that weren't Chacos, right? Chaco, again, hello. Um, and it turned into such a beautiful moment. And that's how we handle ugly leadership. That's what we do. We intentionally surround ourselves by people that are not like that. When we are the unfortunate, um, witnesses to situations like that, but also unfortunately on teams where we can't escape leadership like that. Although again, stats say you'll probably quit because of that leader. But what a beautiful situation to be in where I got to see the outcome a year later of what happened by owning my truth as also a leader in that room and the respect I gained from my team because I showed up as myself and I didn't let that situation define me negatively. In fact, I was able to harness it as a really beautiful truth. So that's my story that I have never shared publicly before. You're gonna run into really crappy leaders, and there's a way to handle them. There's a way to navigate that situation. And if you are in a leadership role, don't be that person. If you're listening to this and you feel a little like, ooh, okay, maybe I've crossed lines, maybe I've said things, maybe I've judged and assumed that it never made it back to that person. It did. I can tell you, I would bet my life savings it made it back to that person. You may never know, but it made it back. They found out. And it's time for you to adjust your sails to stop being that leader. Don't let years and years, 15 years later, someone be doing a live telling a story about how you impacted them, right? Or maybe do and they make it the best thing ever and they make it one of their like feathers in their cap for their leadership. Everything works out for our good. All right. I'll check in with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Um, if you are interested in the nest, you have today, you have tomorrow. That's it. amycapello.com/nest. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.